after the discussion. I would hope so. Well, that was the easy one. I don't know where we're going to go with this one.
Well, Mr.
I'll hand
Chairman,
that over to the Chief Executive.
well, this is another binary one, really, yes or no. Well, actually, there's probably three options, but look, again, it's the council has to, by mid-September of this year, to determine whether or not it wishes to retain the first-past-the-post system for the 2016 local body election, or whether or not it wishes to move to the single transferable voting system. So this paper really just sets out the discussion or the pros and cons about each of those types of system, and then gives you the opportunity to decide whether or not you wish to resolve to change to the single transferable voting. At the moment, obviously, it's, as you're all well aware, it's first past the post here at this council. Whether or not you wish to hold a poll, or to retain the status quo, which is the first past the post system. So, look, I'm not in any way tempted to go right through this paper. I'm sure you already have done that, and but I think it's probably appropriate that either myself or Mrs. Hooper or Mr. Jury take questions, and then see how the discussion
Can I
goes.
kick one off? It's so early in the term, because it is quite early in the term, a couple of years out.
Yeah.
Is that to accommodate a poll if we decided to run a poll?
That's to meet the requirements of the Local Electoral Act. Yeah, it's actually...
It is a deadline, I realise, but it seems ridiculously early into the process.
Well, I guess, if there is a poll and it is going to change, there needs to be a number of other consequential changes, perhaps, and so, that allows time for that to occur.
But, Mr. Chairman, whatever decision is made, the public still has a right to demand a poll if it's sufficient number petition as such.
Yes. So council has to give public notice of the public's ability to demand a poll.
Okay,
absolutely.
right. Well, that clears that up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. From me, two questions. The first is, if we nominated to go to the STV, and all of the other councils in this area stuck with first past the post, I suspect there might be an element of voter confusion. So I'm interested to know whether you've had feedback from the other councils in this area as to what they've decided.
Both, all four actually, have decided to stick with first past the post.
Okay, so that's quite a strong driver for me. The other question was, the only council that's actually used STV currently was Wellington, and I wonder whether you've had any feedback from what happened there, whether there was confusion, how voters felt about it, whether it worked effectively.
No, not in any way officially, and perhaps probably not even anecdotally too much. If it had been Greater Wellington Regional Council, may have had an opportunity because we engaged with them more, but no, not to be of any benefit to this discussion anyway.
Look, I'll cut to the chase. I support retention of first past the post for a range of reasons, but I just want to make a couple of questions of the writers of the paper, which I have some doubts about the statements in here. And I want to come to 10.3, where it says more equitable minority representation as a consequence of STV. I know of nothing that tells me that, so I'm just interested why people say that's the case. The second deficiency with STV is they require quite large areas or groups, which means that there is quite a big distance between the individual elector and those running for office. And if you had a look at it at the STV election here in the District Health Board, lots of people were wondering who was this person. They might know them in their local neighbourhood, like Hastings or Napier or Wairoa, but out of that they were unfamiliar. And so there was this disconnect between the candidates and the electorate. This is not mentioned here. I mean, that's a significant problem for it. Do the writers of the paper appreciate there's a disconnect because of the size of the electorates, and how do you justify the statement that minorities are more likely to get elected under STV than first past the post?
Sorry, yep. In providing the information on the pros and cons, I put in the paper that this is provided by the Solgum Electoral Working Party. So it's not something I've personally written. It was just provided as more generic information for you to consider. So it's not my opinion that these are the pros and cons. This is just...
Well, that being the case, I'd like you to go back to them and ask them to justify that. And I'd like you to ask them why they haven't included the distancing the voter alienation as a problem or consequence of STV. That's a global trend all over the world, and it's been missed, which I think is really important.
I'm pleased you don't. Any other questions? I think we're getting a fairly good signal of where we should be going here, but Councillor...
I'm happy to go to the recommendations, and I would recommend 2. Chair. Sorry, 2. The first part of 2.
Status quo,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
thank you. Wish to speak?
No, Chair. I think it's reasonably clear for me. I think we would. It's a pretty strong factor for me that the TAs have already opted for first past to the post, and I think we should follow that lead.
The second point I'd add to Peter's is that there's familiarity with the voting system. The last local government elections, I think people were a bit puzzled and bewildered by the variety of voting systems. Yeah, it made it more difficult for people to fill out the forms, and as a consequence of being more difficult, they didn't vote. So I think the familiar is good. People understand it, it'll be more likely to encourage them. And secondly, no one's yet pointed out to me how the current system is broken. So I just want to apply the old thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If there was a significant problem, then maybe consider change, but there's been no problem identified in my view.
Thank you. Other speakers? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you. Members' register of interests for confirmation. Relatively straightforward. Anyone have any issues with what's listed there on their behalf? Starting with you, Councillor Dick.
Yeah, just a minor correction. The second property we own is 229 Taradale Road, not 227.
Thank you. Councillor Bevan, working on the table.
Yes, Chair, as at the end of this month, I'm no longer a Director of Prevo.
Thank you. Councillor
Can I just say, I'm a bit puzzled why this has come up in this form quite regularly. Most entities that I've been involved with is that once the declaration of interest are dealt at the beginning of the year, it's on the people's responsibility to update them as they go with the occasional reminder. And I'm just surprised it's here. I just would have thought publishing it on the website, are we going to do that still? Put them up there, and then the onus is on individual councillors to update them with a monthly reminder from yourself, are there any declarations of interest? That should be it.
Reason for that?
Well, when this first came up earlier this year, when we prepared this register of interests, it was discussed then about the regularity of returning this to the formal council process, and I think it was agreed at that stage, or to the best of mine and Mrs Hooper's understanding, that this would be done quarterly. So that's really why we're just bringing it back for you to receive. It's only an information only in a public agenda.
So on that basis, are there any other changes there? Someone happy to move? Happy to move to adopt. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Bevan. Speakers? Thank you. There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Right. Monthly work plan looking forward.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Again, we'll take this as read, and everyone's here correct and present to answer questions.
Councillor Belford.
On page 70, under resource management consents, the bottom section there, 2 questions. One is, have we yet made a decision as to whether to publicly notify the tag application? Where does that?
No, so there's no decision has been made on notification. We're still awaiting further information from the applicant. So it's on hold, pending them providing us further information.
Okay. And then the next item down there, the HBRC and Bostock applications. Where in the process are we at this point in terms of, my understanding is we would need to be out looking to assemble a hearings panel on this matter. Are we in process of doing that, or where does it all stand at this point?
No, so we're still some distance from convening a hearing around either matter. So there's further information and refinement of the HBRC application with us at the moment, and my recollection is that Bostock has requested that their application be put on hold. So we're quite some distance away from the stage of convening hearings. We're still in the early processing stage of the applications.
What might, would you speculate as to what kind of time frame this might unfold?
Certainly before the end of the calendar year. Look, off the top of my head, I couldn't give you an exact date, sorry.
Just on the same matter, Chair, if I may. I know that the application that came in from HBRC requested public notification of the application. Has what that notification might consist of have been discussed?
No, not in any detail, sorry, no.
Further questions on a busy month ahead?
Question around on page 70 with the Hawkeye coastal monitoring. Didn't we only launch that about a year ago?
Coastal monitoring buoy,
Yeah.
Bay.
When did we launch that? No, it's been 2 years.
2 years, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it does have a regular maintenance and upgrade
Yeah.
process, and we're looking at upgrading some equipment on that this time round to look at oxygen profiles in the water column with real-time data that we haven't had before.
Okay. Other questions? No. Anyone wish to go to the recommendation? Happily, Councillor Scott. We have a seconder for that. And fantastic, Councillor Bevan. Wish to speak? No.
Well, actually, just to comment on the amazing amount of research that goes on. So we are lucky to be such a well-informed council.
Seconder, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Chairman's monthly report to be tabled. Blank page. That's not very nice. I don't run the cyclist style, so whatever they use, Councillor Barker, so I have no idea. I have no idea how they do it. No idea how they do it. So anyway, a couple of general comments here. I went to the Matrix of Good Management meeting down in Wellington, which I was the only councillor, let alone chairman there, but it was aimed at the staff, but I felt it was quite good to hear how they were, Christchurch is dealing with some of its rather large water nutrient issues, and how they're changing some of the terminology to get the farming community to be very clear on what is good management and how it affects certain soil types, catchments, etc. So I look forward to seeing some feedback come back to this council at some stage on that. What that may be or when it may be, I'm not sure, but it is a great piece of work, and I think it does have some merit for us here. The Tūhoe signing, yeah, it was a privilege to attend that with our Chief Executive. It was a part of history. I feel one of the bigger signings, and I've been to one of the local, when Mitty signed here as an example, and that was a fantastic day, and this was every bit as good as that. So, and the machinery around these things, it's incredible. The commentary, the level of detail in the history, and the real feeling of the crowd, it's just amazing to be a part of. So I was very proud to be representing the council at that. What else have we got here? There was one I just noticed was missing, which was opening's the wrong word, closing the cycleway, I think. Recognising some of the last pieces of work that had been done on our fantastic cycleway network. That happened on the 19th of the 8th, and it's not there, I'm sorry. But the cycle story in Hawke's Bay has been pretty incredible, really. I mean, what we've done with the resources we've had and how far we've gone, and as a process to have a community that's so clear in what they want and getting them behind it. It's been a good Hawke's Bay story that we probably don't make much of, or as much of as we should do. So that was a big day, I thought, with the Mayor of both Hastings and Napier in attendance, and others. So, what else have we got there? I attended the Clive Community Committee meeting with, and it should have been written here, with Councillor Bevan the other night, just following up from the application they made to our annual plan process about mowing and stuff. And our relationship's pretty strong there. It was stronger than we sort of got the feeling of on that day, on the basis that we do a lot of work with them already. We do a lot of work with Kohupatiki Marae and others there to general enhancement. So I found that quite an enlightening evening. I'm not sure how Councillor Bevan found it, but it was pretty good. Have you
Yeah,
got
Chair,
any thoughts on it?
it's quite impressive to see a community that's got active community members, and I think there would have been 30 people there, and it was a cold night in the middle of the week and quite hard to find the venue. So all credit to them, and they've actually achieved quite a lot over a few years.
Yeah, the list was impressive, wasn't it, on what they've done. And our relationship with Steve Kay in particular goes back about 5 years, so we didn't sort of pick that up on the day. Anyway, anything else? Any questions, really? The visit by Amy Adams was a government contribution to the council to determine, and this is a body of work, but determine what constitutes an outstanding waterway when we start talking about this in the RMA. And everyone's got their views, etc. But the hope, and I might get the Chief Executive to elaborate slightly on this, or Mr. Maxwell, the hope is to get a list of requirements, or requirements probably not the right word, but that you could put across a range of catchments to find what does actually constitute an outstanding waterway. So, you got any comment on that?
Well, I'll just add, the government has set aside $1.1 million to fund projects that will assist in the implementation of the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management. So the $80,000 that's for this particular piece of work that was announced by the Minister last week is part of that fund, and to date there's only been this one and a project in Tasman that have been funded. So that's, I guess the demonstration is how this particular piece of work is contributing towards a greater New Zealand-wide understanding of the National Policy Statement. I don't know if Ian or Helen want to comment any further about the specifics of the project.
I guess only that it will, to assist that national consistency, will involve MFE at a governance group level, and it will seek to establish criteria and a methodology that can then be taken up by MFE and put into that national context. So that debate is done once and not at every regional or region through the country.
Okay, any questions here? Councillor Belvin.
Just on that, would that review call into question in any way the current status of the Mohaka as under a water conservation order, Craig?
It won't change the status in terms of water conservation order, but certainly that could well be a criteria. I mean, it's all part of the mix.
So the status could be questioned and eliminated?
I might be able to just, the water conservation order is legislated, so you couldn't undo that unless you sought to vary the conservation order. So this process might determine that may hypothetically say it's not an outstanding water body, but it wouldn't affect its water conservation order status because that's statute.
Just a bit of an aside, I was in Wairau recently and the chair, the regional council came with a discussion. I explained to those gathered that I had proof that you could ride a bike, and I have to send them a photo. They didn't believe it. But the second thing is about the outstanding waterway. Can I just express, it's not to do with your report, but a concern here. My worry is that if we get to identify outstanding waterways as in singular, by implication, we're then going to be looking at the prospect of having other waterways be less than outstanding, and what that might mean for the quality of the water in the rivers. I just think there's an issue for us to be mindful here about how the frame is set. So we have, an outstanding waterway for Hawke's Bay. Does that mean that others can be less than outstanding? And where does that take us to? Just signal that as a question which is sitting in my head.
And that was the debate we had in Regional Planning Committee around the plan change, which needs some clarity. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question about your report. The meeting with the chairman of the Shared Services Company. Can you elaborate on that? I presume it wasn't just a cup of coffee and a handshake. Are we making progress? Are we?
Well, in his view, we are. I'm to be convinced a bit. I don't mind saying. I think the Shared Service Company has got some real potential, but it's taken a while to get the team together, in his words. I'm hoping that he is available, and he wasn't at the last Merrill Forum, to come and give us an update. But we possibly need a more open reporting process back to the councils, although the political influence in it's about them getting down and working out the nuts and bolts and making things work better services, less cost, all that sort of stuff. It's had some. The concept of shared service companies around the country is great, although in reality some of them are they've done some of the easy stuff now and they're struggling to do some of the harder stuff, and it's not one size fits all. Southland are doing some good stuff, and they've embraced, for example, civil defence, which I see as an opportunity perhaps for us in Hawke's Bay to finalise the last little pieces of the puzzle to have that seamless civil defence service. So it's about service delivery, and it's about efficiencies, and it's about a common goal. But it's been slow enough in my mind. And my question to him was, how adequately has he been resourced, as an example, etc. And he was quite comfortable in where it was tracking, but did understand my concerns about timeliness of some of these outcomes. But I hadn't met him before. It was a good chance to catch up. Councillor Dick.
Two questions, Mr. Chairman. The letter that you signed off to the Minister of Transport concerning regional transport infrastructure on behalf of the mayors and the chair of the RTC, has there been any response?
No, not that I've seen, but there's nothing that's come in that isn't reached
There's been no reply.
Okay, and the letter...
And chances are in the next 3 weeks probably won't be.
And secondly, the letter written by yourself and the Chief Executive to the Chief Executive of Kiwi Rail in accordance with the council resolution seeking a dialogue on options to secure the Napier-Gisborne rail corridor. Has there been any response to that?
No.
There was an acknowledgement of receipt, and that was all. No actual contextual response.
So no to both.
Which is probably not that hard to work out with the stage of the election year cycle, etc. So we live in hope, Councillor Dick, that we may get some response in a 6 weeks' time, perhaps, and maybe a follow-up soon after the election will be the next step. So. Other questions? Someone happy to move that we accept that report? Thanks, Councillor. Oh, you've got a question?
One minor correction to the report.
Oh, no, that's correct. Oh, hang on, no.
The very first entry, other activities attended.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you don't know yet, do you? Yeah. No, I thought you were looking over the priorities in the month ahead. Taranaki Oil and Gas fact funding trip with councillors, but it's actually should be finding. If they want to pay, that's fine. But thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could you please record my query concerning those two very important letters in the minutes? Thank you.
We can certainly follow it up. In fact, could we attach that to the action items? That might be the way to deal with it. So moved and seconded. Someone happy to second? Councillor Dick, thank you. Any speakers? I think it's all been said. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried.